to fix that. So I hope that you can hear the sound and the videos that I have coming up. So let's give it a try. So just welcome everybody and thank you for being part of ASP. With our Artistry Essentials courses, we bring you some new techniques for cutting. We have brought you new color placement, color techniques, and creativity that we hope that you can bring back and do it for yourself behind the chair. And for this course, we will be talking about fall ahead of season and how some of the trends of the summer of 2021 will be transferring into the autumn months of 2021 of this year. Also, why it is important to prepare ahead and why do we know that fashion translates into hair. That was my inspiration for this presentation, and I hope that that kind of gives you an idea of where my mind goes when I'm designing or coming up with any new looks, any new designs. I always look at fashion for my inspiration. And fashion, as well as color in general and design, really translate into hair. When we look at it in a general way, we can see that different types of colors that fashion designers are dictating for the year, they give us an idea of what's going to be trending. A lot of the times we might not find it relevant to what we're doing. Like, for example, for this year, I think we all saw that yellow and gray were going to be the colors of the year. And maybe in our minds, we related to like, how can I don't think any of my clients will want to have half yellow and a half gray. But what happens was that these inspirations in our industry, we were able to see how we can create some of the blondes, and we see them now trending, some of the blondes from the inspiration of the yellow. Some of the grays, we saw that a lot of our clients want to transition and embrace their gray hair. So that's where gray, in my opinion, came into play for this year. If you guys missed the class from Heather about going gray, it's out on YouTube now. So definitely try to get inspiration and see how when colors are in trend, we don't have to take them literal, but we can get an inspiration and go from there. Also in these pictures, you can see the trends for this year in clothing. The garments are very flowy. I definitely like to take inspiration from the shape of the garments. Not everything is tapered to the body. It just makes me think that hair can be a little bit more flowy, that not everything has to be too tight, more of a looser feel, also brighter colors and how they have been muted depending on the seasons. So we can take inspiration in colors, in shapes, and definitely see how fashion translates into hair. So here we see some designs and how fashion designers design their looks. They definitely have a plan ahead of time. They know that if they're going to use certain colors, how they're going to place their colors. I like to do my research, if I can, a year ahead. I do belong to a webinar of trends from around the world that give me an idea of what it's going to be trending for the year. And then I break it down in different months to see how I will be able to fit it into my ideas. How can I create from those colors and those ideas? Definitely, I was shocked too when I heard about the yellow and the gray. And I thought, oh my God, am I going to really have to? Because I talk to my clients about these trends. I felt like, okay, I'm gonna have to really convince a lot of people. But it wasn't that way. My mind started to work a little bit more creatively, and I definitely started to see it too. So looking at other artists in the hair industry definitely inspires us too. And we have many sources nowadays to know how we can move on from different ideas and create them our own. I wanted to point out that for sectioning and pattern making in fashion, they look at the shape of the body. They look at what's going to be placed in the front. How are they going to do the back? How are these designs going to fit this particular person? Because from there, when it comes to the dressmaking, they have to make it in different sizes and be able to make it fit for everyone in the world. So this is just very fascinating to me, how I also like to create my designs. And I think we all do. When we look at the head shape, how am I going to place these type of colors in the back of the head? How are they going to fit in the front of the face? Around the contour, what colors are going to be okay for my client to be around the face, and what definitely can I place in the back where she will feel more comfortable and have it all over her head. So this is an idea of how fashion translates into hair. Definitely also, I just mentioned determining who's the right person. It goes to when we see avant-garde. We see avant-garde fashion in the runways. Sometimes these styles of dresses don't even fit the runway. And we think, well, who's going to really wear that? But fashion designers know that they can design one particular look and then they bring it down or take bits and pieces of it and create it more for a ready-to-wear brand. So an example, if you're familiar with Prada, Prada has a line that is Miu Miu. Miu Miu is a ready-to-wear line. So when we look at like where the designs are just too extreme or too much for a person walking down the street, they also know that they have to make these designs be a little bit more fitting for everybody in streetwear. So those are just some of the ideas that I like to talk about when I am talking about design to my clients and bring them to feel a little bit more comfortable on what they're doing. Do we have clients that like to stick to what's comfortable? I think that most of us know that, you know, here comes, you know, I don't know, Maria, and she wants her regular highlights. If people definitely feel comfortable with just the regular hair color that they get, with just the regular trim, when we tell them what's trending, they might be open to the idea of maybe changing it in a little bit of a different way. So if we tell them that for our fall of 2021, we will see more warmth, we will see rust colors, maybe they're open to changing a little bit of their base color, maybe some low lighting, maybe some root shadowing. That will take them to be more in fashion and more in trend. Not everybody is going to be open to the idea. They want to be definitely comfortable. And if I think about it, when it comes to clothing, I definitely like to be comfortable. I don't think that I am a person that has to have what's in trend for the summer and then change it into that. I like to stick with comfortable. So then that makes me understand that my clients might not be open to the change when it comes to hair either. So, I mean, I get fascinated by fashion and really how I can translate it into the hair. And if you can find the inspiration, I hope that today gives you an idea of how to design for yourself in your salons.
Nancy, would you share with us some of the sites that you follow to get your inspiration from?
The fashion is called Trend Spotting. It is anywhere you just type in Trend Spotting. Also, Trend Stop is actually where I belong to find a year ahead. You belong, you become a member, and you share ideas with different technology brands, different ingredient brands, different textile brands. So the brands are actually from all over just the ideas in general, just general ideas. A lot of the technological brands that join in is what gives us the idea that hair can also be moving forward. And I think with ASP, we definitely relate to technology. I mean, today we will see B reds and B browns, and isn't that technology in itself? I mean, color that lifts color and can deposit the tone at the same time. I think it's incredible. So,
absolutely.
Right? Isn't that really interesting? Also, when it comes to ingredients, I take this in a lot from skincare brands. They talk about the ingredients and they don't let go of the ingredients of the past completely. They just use less of them and then find what's going to be new and better for the skin benefit. And also, I mean, they look at the brands for who the consumer is going to be purchasing. So if you're going to have an older clientele that we see it now, we look younger, and I said we are looking younger, we're living longer. We definitely know that their category or catch of the person that they want to target is going to be an older clientele. So we can take it the same way. We can see, well, what products that are anti-aging can I offer my clients? What type of technology within the hair color that I use will benefit these clients? Because hair gets old just like skin does. So if these benefits are good for the skin, they should be good for the hair. And these are just a few ideas. I can probably list them later on, or if you guys ask me directly, I can send you more websites that I get influence from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So why is it important to prepare ahead? I just mentioned the technology. So I like to talk about when we're looking for trends, not just that fashion trends, it's important to know about technology and ingredients. So when we know what's going to be in skincare, what's going to be technologically advanced in anything that we touch. I mean, we talk about foods, we talk about different things that are technologically advanced. Well, if we knew that this year, the blonde and the gray, the yellow and the gray, meaning blondes and gray colors, were going to be popular, and we know that we use Vitaplex in our color, isn't that already technology and ingredients that we can talk to our clients about? And why? Because if we're going to go lighter, then we know that I can definitely make you lighter, because I use technology that is called RAB19, which is in my Vitaplex, and I can definitely take you lighter without compromising the texture of your hair. You will still have healthy hair, beautiful hair, and we're talking to them about things that they should know and why they can change their hair. So this is why it's important to be prepared ahead of time. Also, ingredients, we know that certain ingredients in our line, I mean, we're ahead of time when it comes to ingredients. A lot of different brands are getting here at the same time that we are, but we have already researched and done all of the technology advancements in our company. So it is important to let them know that we have the resources to change their hair. And when we know what's trending, I'm bringing it back now to being prepared ahead of time. When we know what's trending, we can help them decide on their choices of today that will be trending in the next months. So if we know what's going to be hot for the fall, we can definitely start talking to them about that. And if they want to start making a change now, then we can take them there slowly, as opposed to in one complete change. I do have clients that come in for one complete change. We're changing today. I just had a girl last week, which was, it was cute. She was a breakup. And I mean, don't we have that when things like that are life-changing? You want to definitely change your look. Yep. So we know that these clients exist. So if we can find the relevant issues that our clients are interested in, we can definitely help them to be prepared ahead, and it prepares us to be able to give them what they need in the future. And here at the bottom, I wrote, trends influence brands to know the purchasing power of the consumer. This is really, really important. We know what our clients want. We know what our clients need. Let's talk to them about what they want, and that we can get them to what they want. But also, if they don't know what they want, we can start influencing their ideas by talking about what we know. And when we do a little bit of research, it doesn't have to be an extent like the way that I do it, but definitely get on to knowing what techniques of hair cutting will possibly be fitting for them, what color techniques you can use to create the looks that you might like. And I mean, in the world of Instagram, we see so many different ideas now that our clients are looking at them too. And they might be thinking, well, should I ask my stylist? Should I ask Kristen if she can do this for me? Or are they afraid? But when you give them the confidence that they can ask you because you know and you're prepared, they'll definitely be open to the idea. And together you can choose a style that's great for them. Yep. Any questions on any of the information?
We have nothing in chat.
Okay, sounds great. So here we have some looks that are the summer trends and how they fall into the autumn. Let's pay attention to the colors. Here we have a color called Adobe, Rust. The browns were called Root Beer. These green here were Olive Tree, and different shades that are moving forward to the fall and to the winter will get even brighter. So just an idea of how fashion really relates, and we might not see this in a particular way of like, well, I don't see anybody wearing this in the fall. Well, that's not the idea. The idea is that the high top of the waist is going to transition into the fall, that the colors will transition into the fall, that maybe some of the patterns will be changed and the same colors are going to be used, but in more solid pieces. So here we can see that for the autumn, the pieces are longer, they're stretcher, and they're stretched, and they are more in one color, one solid color. In the right picture, we can see that there is a slight color blocking, which also is popular for the entire year 2021. But in this particular image, we can see that the color placement was done in different pieces. And in the pants, we can see the patterns being a little bit more avant-garde, if you may say. So definitely they want people to take it a different step further, and maybe not color blocking entirely, but taking some of the ideas that are trending now to the ones that will be trending in the following months. More of the trends in color and in cuts of fabrics are muted reds. Here we have a model that you will see later. Her name is Sheena, and we did definitely a muted red. For the muted reds that walked around the runway, we saw deep cuts. We see a deep cut here in the collar. We see a deep cut here in the leg. In this dress here, if we pay attention closely, there is a deep cut right at the neck area, but it's placed with a pattern. So they made it more conservatively. And in some of them, here's a deep V. Actually, I cut the image, but it's a deep V. So you can either be on the sexy side or you can be more conservative, but the deep cuts are still there. The deep cuts still have a fashion, and the deep cuts came in one garment in different colors. So you can see these cuts here, also how they're just trending. So really, when we're looking at all these inspirations, we can see how they do transfer into the different months and how we can adapt them and create hair with these ideas. Again, the short little dress from, the shorts and the dress in the open stomach, we see it here for the autumn too. And we can just, see that everything really does fall into the next months without too much effort. Same thing we can do when it comes to hair. Okay, so here, Taylor is going to be my main model for today. So when you hear me talk about Taylor, we will see Taylor fully from cut to color today. When we looked at our inspirations and how we were going to do her hair for this class, for this video, but also for herself, we were looking at these trends that were very bold pieces of color block placements. We definitely looked at this here, very, very blonde, but she does not want to be blonde. She has virgin hair. She wants to go in baby steps and start to lighten without bleaching. Isn't that something that we hear all the time? Well, if we have the resources, we know that we can provide that. She didn't mean she just didn't want bleach. She wanted to lighten, but not too much. She wants to keep her hair on the healthier side. So we are going to be using Spectrum for that. It's a non-ammonia lightener. We will talk all about the formulas when it comes to those slides. But we also were looking at the inspirations here and how there was a piece here that comes from the bottom. I think we can see mine too. I definitely copied the whole thing for myself. I put it on my fringe and I put it in the back of my hair. I love to just follow some of the trends and how they fit for me. So this is a great example. We also saw that the reds were going to be in fashion. So when we talked about the trends of color, she was definitely open. She wears a lot of browns. She's a normal girl that likes to wear just like eyeshadow, and she just is a brown type of girl. She loves reds, but doesn't want to be a bold red. So we'll see how we transfer all her inspirations into her looks for today. Also, we saw that money pieces are still in. All of these money pieces, either if it's a hat or it's a full bold piece, they also were diffused. She loved that idea. She's low maintenance. She wants to have more of a rooted area. So we knew that we were going to root shadow her for more extra, to extend her longevity on the hair color. That she's not she doesn't book that often, that she was going to be able to have something that was going to be low maintenance. And I think this is just what I'm saying. I think that COVID really gave us that prediction that everybody was going to be low maintenance this year, and we can help them when it comes to root shadowing, extending their hair, balayaging, doing color that they can extend for a little bit before they see us again. Yeah. And here is Taylor. These are just some after pictures of Taylor. I wanted you to take a look at how really it just fit in with her look. She looked at this image before we did her color, and I said, these are going to be rust and adobe colors. We can lighten your hair, non-ammonia bleach, lightener, and we can definitely add a tone at the same time. Here you can see we rooted her base just slightly, and she has the colors that are going to be in fashion. As of right now, she said her color faded a little bit, but she's loving it even more. And that's the idea with these colors, is that we can deposit color with the B reds, the B browns, And with Spectrum being a lightener that we add toner to it, so we can have the tone without having to tone them after. And when they fade to the same colors without too much effort. So I can't wait to show you guys. So these are just a few of the pictures here. Any questions, Kristen?
Nope, we don't have anything on chat.
Cool. Okay, so for the colors that are trendy, I talked about Adobe, and for Rust, I wanted to bring it down to more of the streetwear. You can see some of the celebrities in these pictures. We can see real people walking down the street and how they utilize these colors. So for Adobe here in this picture, it was used more as a background. So get the idea that maybe we can use it as a background color for hair. Here in the middle, center, bold, and super sparkly, we have Adobe in one single piece. Again, the garment is a little floaty. On the sweater, it's just in between the patterns. So we can do the same when it comes to hair. We can do it in low lighting. We can do it in small pieces, peekaboos. I mean, all these things that we know how to do with hair, we can definitely incorporate these colors if we choose to, and if our clients are open to it. And then Rust. Rust was actually forecasted for spring of 2021, and we didn't see it much. There was other colors that definitely overpower the streets, but we know now that it's going to be trending for summer and it's going to fall into the fall. So these colors, we can always grab them and give them a little bit of a different tonality. For this rust here, we can see more of a burgundy rust. We can see orangey rusts, more pinkish rusts. And in reality, I mean, everybody will turn out to look very different depending on their color base if we try to add something like this. We definitely need to formulate a color that we know will be more towards the rust that we want to see, but we have to take in consideration that every formulation will change when it comes to the client that we're applying it. Okay, two of the other colors are also for the fall, very shocking. Soybean, because it's very light, but we will definitely start to see it. We see it now, but it hasn't really been applied directly in full force. We'll definitely see it more when it comes to summer and fall, and we'll see it in pieces like all from head to toe. We will see it in different peekaboos. I do have a model today that I will show you my soybean idea, but it was taken a little bit different. But what I really want to talk about on this slide is the Desert Mist. Desert Mist also came out for spring. Also a color that we will probably always see, not just in 2021. We probably saw it last year, but the difference in this Desert Mist is more of a sand color, is that it has a little bit of an undertone of a pinkish that can be added either in our toners, or for the example that we will see today, I will be creating a Desert Mist with Spectrum and our red toner. With being able to lighten the hair and apply a red toner, we get that pinkish tone. If Taylor's hair was a lot lighter, we will definitely see something like in this picture. But because Taylor's hair was naturally darker, we got a different tone. We got something more like in the middle here. But this is the idea. I mean, fashion colors are always different. They change in the slightest thing, and in our hair industry, it's pretty much the same. They will change tonality. We can always replicate exactly what we see. I mean, if we do hit it right on the dot, then good for us, right? But honestly, in the reality of the world that we live in, not everything is going to be exactly the same. And this is why our clients can actually wear something that is very unique to them, because this is a color that looks good on them. Okay, and here is Taylor. Can you hear the sound, Kristen? It was very, very low.
Sorry, my dog is barking. I cannot hear it.
You couldn't hear it. Okay. Well, I just want to talk about Taylor's hair here. She has, because since COVID, she wore some of those color conditioners in her hair, not from ASP. I was kind of afraid, since I heard that those don't really come out of the hair. I was afraid that maybe the B reds and the B browns wouldn't lift it, but they did. So we know that they lift color. I just didn't know that it would lift, you know, these type of tones. Her hair was faded, so it gave me a little bit of confidence that I can lighten her and deposit the color with a B red and a B brown. For Taylor, she has some ends that really need some cutting and definitely some treatment. So we will see her formulas coming up. To prepare the hair, I always start with active restructurant from Kitoko. I comb it into the hair to prepare the hair for any big project. I always detangle their hair, and before I detangle, I use active restructurant, so it's not an extra step. I mean, it's taking an extra step without really having to think about it. It's not very complicated to just spray in and brush the hair, and you are preparing the hair, giving it nourishment, giving it strength. You're also repairing some of the split ends prior to using anything else, so we don't get any further damage. So this is appropriate for anybody. So if you don't have it yet, use it, try it. I also use it as a cutting lotion. You will see me spray when we're cutting her hair. So active restructurant is just an amazing product. It prepares the hair even before you get started. Okay, now we will get into the colors we will be using. To create the rust color, I will be using some of the B reds and the B browns, and definitely using deeper tones and lower developer volume. But if we don't know what B reds is, and here we can, this class is more creative. So if you don't know more about B reds and you have absolutely no idea, I'll give you the fast breakdown of what it is. It's a system that lifts the color and deposits the tone at the same time in darker shades. So if you're working with darker shades from 6 and lower, and they want to lighten their hair to a red, to a copper, you can use these colors, always choosing the correct developer, and they don't have to lighten their hair prior. So you can get results like red, red copper, copper, and red violet, and definitely get these tones without having to bleach the hair. So this is fascinating. This is amazing. This is when I talked about technology is at the fingertips of our hands. And we're not letting our clients know. So they should know that they can change their hair in one single appointment of only 35 minutes. And this is when it's processed at room temperature. If you're adding heat, it's 15 minutes, but because we now talk about B reds and B browns being able to be applied on scalp, we don't apply heat to the scalp. Just make sure that you know that you don't apply heat to the scalp. It can leave you with some warmer areas around the crown. That's not the result you want, don't use heat. Always follow your manufacturer's directions when it comes to anything you use from ASP. Everything we talk about here, you can take, create on your own, but definitely, following the manufacturer's directions in your technical manual. For the magenta, I know that I talked about the first 4 being applied on darker tones from 6 to darker to like 1. But for magenta, you only apply these colors from 6 and lighter. It doesn't really have the capacity to give you that tone that you're looking for in a magenta in darker tones. So for magenta, just know that you use them on level 6 and higher. And for B browns, if we were familiar with the B reds, it's going to be very easy to understand the B brown series. Now we can lift and deposit color, lifting color that has been previously colored, and I didn't mention this in the B reds, previously colored or natural. So when I was talking about Taylor having some undertones, what is that called? It's a conditioner that they sell online that you can buy, and it was found that it was leaving some residue in the hair that was very hard to lift. I encountered that problem, so I was afraid that it wouldn't pull that out. So luckily, I was able to lift it with the B reds and B browns. I'm not saying that it will lift everybody's. Definitely always do a strand test before you are doing a lift of previously colored hair. But I know that some of the ladies in this room right now, we have tried it, and it has lifted previously colored hair. So try it if you haven't. But for today, we are going to be mixing the B red and the B brown together. So just to understand a little bit more, the B browns don't come in color shades. These come in levels 8, 6, and 4. Just for general information, always choose the correct developer for whatever base you're working on. So if you have darker bases, you're going to use higher developers. If you're working with levels that are 5 or 6, you can use lower developers. just again refer to your tech manual to know what you will be mixing and knowing what basis of color you will be working on. Again, we can apply B browns on scalp, and you don't need to add heat. We work with the natural heat of the body. This will give us the perfect lift that we need, and 35 minutes room temperature and 15 minutes under heat if you're using it away from the scalp. Do we have any questions, Kristen?
I did get a message that said, what is the difference between AAC? But I don't understand the question. So Ron, if you wanted to unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, I was wondering what the difference between the numerical mist and active restructuring is.
Oh, okay. Oh, I can answer you in chat.
Okay, you wanna say it for them to hear, or you can answer in chat. Okay, you can answer in chat.
Okay.
Sounds good. Sorry, I forgot about my timing, and we're doing really good actually.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to create the desert mist, we will be using Spectrum. Spectrum is a lightener that gives us up to 5 levels of lift, depending on the developer and on the base that we're working on. Today, I will be using the powder 22 volume and the red toner. Desert mist, again, has that undertone of red. It depends on the level that you're working on. On levels that are 6 and higher, you will definitely see a pinky blonde. I'm working with Taylor, who has a darker base than a 6. So 6 and lower, I feel that her root was just slightly darker. And we will definitely get a sand color, but a little bit more warm. And for that, I mixed 2 parts of my powder with 2 parts of my developer and 1 part of the red toner. These can be applied off the scalp or on the scalp. And just like with B-Reds, if you're applying it on the scalp, there's no need for any heat to be added. But we know that Spectrum lives with heat. Sometimes the body heat is enough to pick up any of those tones and start to lift and process. And we will see with Taylor, it definitely started to happen. She was running really warm, but also we had a lot of color on her head. And I think that she was just naturally very warm, and it was a warm day that day too. Again, speaking of technology, Spectrum can give us the lift and tone in one single system. So when we're talking about technology and wanting to let our clients know about what's new and what's trending, Spectrum has been around for a long time, but we probably haven't really let them know that they can lift and get tone in only 12 minutes. And the 12 minutes are up to 12 minutes. So if you have clients that don't want to lighten that much, you can leave it for 8 minutes, depending on how light they're getting just by themselves. Here are the sections that we're going to be using for Taylor. I always like to share the same sectioning for a haircut and for a color. It just helps me to be able to know how much hair distribution is in each of the sections. So when I go back and do my haircut on top of the color, I remember that this piece was a certain color, so that I'm not going to completely whack it off, and that I know that I want that to be bold and to show. Also, when I'm just sectioning around the areas in the back, I know where I placed it, so I don't want to cut too much off of the length. So sharing the same sheets of sectioning can definitely help you. So if you haven't been doing any type of road mapping for yourself before you get started with your client, I encourage you that you do. It's very it's very helpful to me. And if you like to just take different sectioning and just do them yourself, take a screenshot of this one. This is a really easy one, in my opinion. Easy to follow, easy to apply, and easy to replicate if they're coming back for the exact same thing in their next visit, which is rare. But definitely will help you to know where you're taking your hair idea, and it makes the job more enjoyable. And here we will see Taylor's sectioning. So we have a fringe section that is slightly off, one top section triangle on the top of the head, 2 that are going to be on the sides, and they go from the top section on each side. In the back, we create one line through the middle, and we subsection those sections in 3. And these are more like pie sections. Do you hear sound, Kristen? No. Well, good thing that it's just music, so. I was going to have to talk over it anyway, so it's okay.
Oh, perfect.
It's just so sad. But you heard it, right, when you replayed it this morning?
This morning I did, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing it now.
I'm going to have to check that. So I apologize for the sound. It's a very trendy song, so you totally mention it. I'm just kidding.
She's actually singing for you.
Right. Okay, now we will move on to, I would just want to talk about that sectioning prior to mixing also helps you to know how much color you need to mix. Always important, it's important to me. I don't like to waste color. I'm definitely not stingy, but I like to mix as I go. And when I have a plan of where the colors are going to be placed on the head, it gives me an idea of how much color I need to mix. And here we will see the mixing of our colors. So for our Adobe, we will be using 40 grams of B8, 40 grams of B red copper, 80 grams of our 30 volume. And we're definitely going to add some help here with Vitaplex to be able to repair some of those ends, 10 grams of Vitaplex. I use Vitaplex in every one of the formulas. For rust, 30 grams of B6, 30 grams of B8, 20 grams of B red copper. I mean, just red copper on its own is a very rusty color, so it's going to be very trendy. 10 grams of B red. We wanted to bring in the hue. 10 grams of 6.117. Now this is our Gothics. This was just used to mute that red and make it more of a rusty color. And 100 grams of 20 volume. Vitaplex, 10 grams for this formulation. For our Desert Mist, I mixed 2 bowls. The first one was 20 grams of powder, 20 grams of the 22 volume, and 10 grams of the red toner with 4 grams of Vitaplex, 4 grams of Vitaplex. So I mixed 2 different ones and I mixed them right prior to using them. So I used 1 bowl for the back and 1 bowl for the front. And here are the formulas with a number next to them. The numbers are assigned to where I place them on the head sheets. So if you need to take a screenshot or a picture of this, just so you can have an idea of how this color was performed, these are the colors that were used, these are the formulas, and here are the numbers. So our Desert Mist on the part 1, Adobe is the 2, and Rust is the 3. Okay. Here we began to apply the spectrum away from the roots on the mesh packets. I mean, all the colors in their bowls looked exactly like I wanted them to, and I was hoping, oh my God, I really hope it just looks that way. Of course, it's not as bright as in the bowl, but it was definitely very exciting to see them being applied.
I love that you're using our meshes.
All right. Oh, yes. Yeah, you can see through them. So for Spectrum especially, I was able to see that her hair was lifting without heat. And it was already from the heat of her own head. So it was really interesting, and I love using those packets. Thank you, Kristen. Here you can see that I started applying the Adobe color in that next section, but I stayed away from the root. Then I remembered I'm going to be rooting her with a root shadow. So you'll see me after that I started apply deliberately from root to ends. So by no means, this will be your own judgment and application. If you want to use a different formula, like let's say she had gray, then you wouldn't be doing it from root to ends with B-Reds, because we know that B-Reds don't cover gray. So it's up to your judgment. I maybe saw 1 or 2 grays on Taylor, but it's not necessary. On this section, you see the half is the rust at the root, and these ends are the Adobe. We still take some of the inspirations of today, which is the melting, color melting, and I'm using it in just some of the ends of her hair, just so we can give it a different look and have more of the depth right in the crown of the hair or root of the hair. Here is rust, and again, adobe on the ends on these last sections. These are the sections that are going to be next to the front sections, and the front sections are the rust all over. So from root to ends, I'm using the rust color, having some depth on the sides. I go back and I apply my root of the spectrum. And I also go back and I apply the root to my B colors. I love calling it B colors now because it's just, I don't know how to, just B reds, B browns, the B colors are applied. Here is the last triangle on the top, sorry, before the fringe. So that was the adobe color. In the front, we split the fringe into two. We know that it's offside. We apply spectrum away from the root, and then I get closer to finishing, and then I start to apply it closer to the root. This piece of mesh, I only applied to be able to put the colors on top of it so it doesn't, they just don't contact with each other. They were acting very warm, that I didn't want them to bleed on one another. And for that last piece, that was also adobe. So just looking at the placement and knowing where the colors were gives me a great visual before I even finish. So if this is an idea that you can definitely take, I encourage you that you do your sectioning prior. That's what will help. When I finished applying the B colors, before I moved on to the fringe, I set a timer for 35 minutes. I knew that the back was already starting to apply. I checked the panels in the back and they were already starting to lift, even the ends. Like I said, she was running warm, and if the warmth is from the natural body, we don't need to add any extra heat. So I definitely moved to the front and I applied a dryer, a hooded dryer, just to the front of her head for an extra 8 minutes. Her hair lifted very, very quickly. I probably would have been okay getting away with 8 volume instead of 22, but I did 22, and this is, now we know, right? Okay. This is just her first shampoo, and I shampooed with Kitoko oil treatment cleanser just to remove the color before I applied her next process, which is her root shadow. And for her root shadow, I used 30 grams of 6.4, 60 grams of converter, and I only processed for 15 minutes. I didn't want it to completely cover or to go too dark. So I wanted that root area just to give me some dimmed, and a different idea of how the colors on the top were going to flow. I rinsed her after the 15 minutes. Then I applied Violet-Plex all over the head, part 2 for 10 minutes. And I rinsed her, and then I used the Kitoko oil treatment for extra condition on her ends only. Okay, now we are going back to the sectioning. As I mentioned, we are using the same sectioning from the haircut and the color, and here is the sectioning for the haircut. It gives me the perfect division. I know where the colors are standing. Maybe some hairs are in or out, but it doesn't matter, because now what matters for the haircut is the hair distribution. We need to know how much to cut. Before I begin the haircut, I want to talk about the techniques that will be utilized. We're going to be doing some deep cuts, and very comfortably using the V of our shears. I am going to be using a shear that is a 6-inch. You can definitely, for longer hair, you can use a 7. If you're using a 5, you will need to work a little harder. I don't judge on whatever size shear you want to use, but use them accordingly to what you need them for. I like to have an arsenal of tools so I know what hair needs what. If I'm cutting shorter hair, I definitely go for a size of a 5-inch. But if I'm cutting more general cut, and my most used in the salon is a 6-inch. I will also be using a texture shear of 14 teeth. It's a little bit more open, and it just allows me to filter the hair in the areas that are a little bit heavier. And you'll see me using that as well. The layers are air layers. They will not be connected to one another by lifting the hair completely. I will be lifting one section and match it to the section underneath or to the section that was previously cut. So when I'm talking about air layers, you will definitely see me matching in the air, which makes it just really, really cool to not have to be so focused on matching and trying to blend the hair from the beginning. You are going to have some slight disconnections, but this is what makes this haircut cool. Because it's going to be a long haircut, we want to leave a lot of the length on the ends and make sure that she has that separation in the ends. Remember, we talked about clothing being more flowy. We want this haircut to be a lot more flowy. We want her length, but we don't want to leave it just as a big blanket of hair, because if we were just to trim the ends, we wouldn't see a shape. We wouldn't be able to see the colors underneath. So this all was really relevant to the hair coloring. So you will be able to see when it comes to the end, and we see all the after pictures. All right. When you see me pointing as my reference, so I know that I wanted to fall in the cheekbones, and I start from the mid shaft to the ends with the inside of my shears opening and closing. We notice that Taylor's hair is thicker. We don't want to slide cut that hair. We want to open and close our shears quickly, 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 so we don't create any type of splitting. Okay. All right, now we move to the sections on the side. We will subsection and match. You saw me there pulling the front forward. We're matching, and we're bringing those deep cuts down to the length. Filtering with the texture shears only in the areas that you can see that are heavy. So I think it's very good to see the visual. When do you use them? Only when you need to filter. If you're working on a client that has less density of hair, you don't need to filter too much. Maybe just filter in order to it can have the movement, but don't do it as heavy as I'm doing it on Taylor. Okay, now we move to the other side. So I work one side of the face, the contour face frame, to the other side, and then I move to the back. So here we go, matching again, filtering, texture shears. Once you feel comfortable doing techniques like this, it doesn't feel like you are removing that much. You will actually see me at the end filtering a little bit more. So this is still on wet hair, but you'll be able to see this result. Okay, so in my shears, I go lower. Remember, these are air layers. I'm matching them to the front layers. The deep cuts go in front of the section and in the back of the section. That way we create movement towards the ends of the haircut. And when you see me finishing off these layers, you can see that I'm taking off the tips. So this is where the trim goes. There we go. So this is where we're taking off the length as well. So she is getting her trim that she needed along the technique that we're using for it to show the movement of the haircut. Okay. Oh, you can see that desert mist color back there is so pretty.
I think it's interesting that you're pulling everything in front of her shoulders as well.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, for these layers, just like shag haircuts, all the layers are cut to the front. So for this particular one, we will maintain the length because we are over directing everything to the front. Thank you, Kristen. That's why you're my second pair of eyes. All right. And you can see that the texture that is being taken out are just like slight little ribbons of hair being falling down, and they are removing texture as well. So if you're doing this at the beginning on a client that has less density, you, like I said, you don't need to filter anything and just begin to cut. So here is the top section. I brought it down and forward to excuse me, towards the face. Here we go, measuring with the front, air layers, and cutting the tips. Filter, definitely filtering on the top section. When you need this less filtering, you will see me flip the shears on the other side and cut a little bit different. I think it's on the next section. Okay, deep cut, Everything is being framed in the front of her face. Okay, length and more deep cutting.
If you had a client that wore more of a side part, would you move your part to where they parted, or are you going to always cut with the center part?
Yeah, you can move it to the side, most definitely. For Taylor, we talked about that prior. She said she was going to try to split it in the middle, so we went for this, but she is a side part. And when we were done, we took her to the side part, and it actually looked really good. So if you don't want to have to, you know, just do that, like having to split her prior, you can do it in the middle, and then just when you are checking your hair at the end, then you can make those changes. But I think this haircut is very fun and very general for anyone, and then you can move your split anywhere. But thank you for asking about that, because it is important if they have a very heavy side part. Okay. So I wanted to show the part of the blow dry. I know that a lot of times we don't really care about blow drying the hair, but I wanted to show you that the lighting on the top of the head for this camera, because I use 2 different cameras, you can see the colors so beautifully. In the pictures, they don't show so much of the vibrancy, but here you can see the tonality. You can see the adobe in this piece that I'm blow drying right there. That's the adobe piece. And you can see the rust too at the root. And the root shadow, how much it helped to just bring it all together. And the root shadow is not going anywhere for any time soon. So if we want to incorporate it, there's nothing wrong with that. And the color blocks, you can definitely see them defined on where they were placed. So this hair color with the cut was definitely a bold move for both of us, her and for myself. But in the end, you'll see how much movement, how much you can see the colors, and how it really doesn't look odd at all. It might have looked a little bit different to start with, but I think that it came together as a full look once it's done.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
And we're getting some comments about how the shine is out of control.
Oh my God, the shine. I couldn't even, she couldn't believe it. We will put her pictures next to each other so you can see her before and after. She always talked about she never had shine in her hair. I mean, this is something here with ASP colors. Okay, this part of the filtering is important for me to do on all clients. Once the hair is blown out and before I style it any further, I like to just go over it, feel with my fingers and my hands how much weight is in each section. Did I miss any heavy areas? Here you can see just slight points that I'm just removing, not with a scissor, but more with a filtering shear. So just it can leave the airing out at the ends, just complete and perfectly smooth. This is unnecessary hair. You can also feel where you know, if you need to take out more length because the hair is slightly more damaged, then it's definitely a good thing to go over your haircut. I will be working with my new apprentice, and I still have this thing about, am I going to let her blow dry on my clients and just finish, or do I want to go check them before? And I'm just still trying to think that I love to do it all myself. So it's going to be hard letting go. Again, just removing some of these ends. I also look at the color when this is going on and making sure that I was able to fill in every area of her hair. And how much weight was removed is out of control. And you can still see that there's still so much hair in the hair. So never be afraid to use these techniques when you're cutting. I mean the cut before, prior to the filtering, because you will remove just enough if you are looking at it in certain areas. So if you know that she has less hair in the front, you don't need to filter so much. You know she's heavy at the crown, definitely go for it. Don't be afraid, because when you're done, you'll be surprised how much hair is still left in the hair with this haircut technique. Okie dokie. And there is Taylor. Now the song for this one is a little cute, so I'm sorry you guys are missing it.
So cute.
Thank you. It was very fitting for her. She was just very, very happy.
She definitely looks happy.
She looks happy. She looks happy. Okay, so after her hair was finished and blown out, I smoothed her out a little bit more with Kitoko oil treatment. I always use it on all clients. I know she didn't even need any more shine, but I did it more for slimming the ends at the bottom, shaping her hair. I also want to talk about this shape has been done just with the blow dryer and not really much effort. The haircut is what gave me the shape. So just think about those things where you want to put the shape in your haircut. Definitely focus at the time of cutting that you will know that you will get those bends in the hair so the hair just doesn't lay flat. Because even with a curling iron, you won't get much curl if you don't have the right texture added into the haircut. And I waved her with Work It. And I am just running my fingers through, breaking up the curl, breaking up the wave. And she got a lot of shape. In fact, I wanted to straighten her more because the texture in there was just intense. So I wanted a little bit more of a air layer shaggy look for the finish. And this is what we got. Here's the before and after. You can see the dullness of the hair before. She didn't lose much length. Really looking at it, you can you make your clients happy by letting them know that the technique is not going to take away that much of their length. And if it's needed, then it's needed, but you don't have to, not with the technique. And it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions?
Nope, just some comments that it's absolutely beautiful, amazing. Your directions are spot on.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Very cool.
I did just really quick want to touch on your spectrum formula.
Yes.
We just wanted to point out that while body heat sometimes can be enough, we definitely do recommend using an outside heat source just so that you can get the expected results.
Very, very good. And thank you, Kristen, because I completely missed out on letting you guys know that I used my blow dryer and the diffuser to touch the ends in the back of her head. So great point.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, the outside source is going to be it, especially if you're doing highlights. So I used it all the way to her body, all the way to her scalp. So she definitely got the warmth. But yes, if you're doing just highlights away from the scalp, you will need an outside source, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so it processes under the dryer for up to 12 minutes, just as reference.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah. Here is Taylor from the back. Here on this very right one, you can see the rust overlapping the color. So it was nighttime. I mean, I think her styling took me longer than anything else. She has so much hair to blow dry. And here you can see more of that desert mist peeking out. So when I was talking about the haircut gives you the movement and makes the colors give more visibility, you will definitely want that if you are doing colors and panels underneath in the back of the head. So very important to give it all the texture and all the filtering that is needed so you can see the colors in the back. All right, here's some side views. I just think the combination together, I mean, this here is desert mist, rust, and our adobe, and all together, they just look like they just go together, and it was just the perfect blend. I want to talk a little bit about why I mixed the B reds and the B browns. The B reds, we know that they can give us all the intensity we want, very true to swatch. I wanted to mute these colors. I wanted to make them a little bit more of a red brown, something that won't be as bright. That's not what we were going for. We can definitely obtain those colors, and we know that if we have used them in the past. So by mixing them with the B browns, we are giving them just a slight undertone of an earth tone. So the colors that you see all throughout the year are going to be more earth tones. Everybody is just thinking about these colors in different variations, so you can make them your mix and match. So if you like the B the B8 just the way it is, but you would like to have a slight little bit of red, you can add a little bit of the B reds. You don't have to follow the formulations exactly the way that I wrote them down or the way that I use them, but now you can see what the colors do in the formulations that I provided. All right, here is Taylor's finished waved hair and all the movement in the haircut. And just to finish off with Taylor, these are the last pictures. So any questions on Taylor? No?
Nothing in chat, just everybody's giving you some love.
Yay! Awesome. Okay, my first Be Red, Be Brown victim. No, the first person I ever tried this on was Melissa. And for Melissa, we have tried to just do some colors. She has some old highlights, and we thought about, okay, we'll just do it with this, with color. And we kind of tried, it hadn't really picked up as bright as we wanted. She brought me a celebrity. I can't remember her name right now, but her inspiration was a celebrity that has this exact same copper tone. For her formulation, oh, my formula, I can't see it. Can you read it for me?
I
Kristen,
can.
Yeah.
For your roots, it says 40 grams of B red copper, 20 grams of B brown B6, and then 10 volume. And then on the mids and crowns, mid on crown, 30 grams of B red copper, 10 grams B8, 5 grams of 0.4 intensives with 30 volume. Her front says with 20 volume. And then,
okay, yeah, so that means the same formula, but with 10 volume, 20 volume. Okay. And then the nape, I can read those two. Thank you so much. And then the nape area, be red copper with 30 only. This is where she had a lot of dark in her nape area. Naturally, she have never really lifted. And I think that she did say that she added some 5.0 before. She's a hairstylist herself, so she knows what she's doing. And what I wanted to mention is that when you see her root with a 10 volume, if she was going more for a natural look, a little bit different than Taylor, you don't need to root shadow. She naturally looked a little bit more root shadow with the B6, and I think you said copper. And I'm sorry, you guys, I can't read in my screen because I'm sharing. I have a whole different type of buttons to click on, so I can't see what it says. But you can definitely see that in her root area, the 10 volume and the B6 was enough to give her some dimmed roots. And this is an indoor shot against the outdoor shot and against her before picture. So B browns, B reds, definitely the technology to be able to lift you and to tone your hair without having to lighten your clients. All right. I just love talking about the technology. I just think it's so amazing. It's the first color line that I ever hear that has something like this, to be honest. Yeah. Okay, and for Sheena, before we go over the formula, Kristen, I want to talk about what I had to do on Sheena. Sheena had a black box dye. Sheena was one of our models for our convention last year, our conference, and she was our B red model. During quarantine, she was one of the ones that really didn't want to come out. I really suggested that I could go do her root touch-up, but she put black box dye, and she had been doing it ever since the summer of last year up until last week. She came in last week. We removed with a bleach cap of System Blonde Level 9 with 30 volume and botanical primer shampoo. Now you will ask, why would I want to use that shampoo? The alkalinity is a little bit higher than our regular cleansers. So I was able to just remove some of those heavy patches. She had, you will see the before in a minute, a lot of very patchy colors in her hair because she was doing it herself, and she has so much hair. I mean, if Monica is in this call, and somebody, I think Heather worked on her, and so did Amanda, so much hair, this girl. So it really was, for someone to do it herself, I think she just missed a lot of spots, and it was very hard to go through it. So there was a bleach cap, and now Kristen, you can go over her formula.
So her roots are B6, 7.4 and 20 volume. And then her mids is B red copper with B8 and 20 volume. And then for her money piece, Nancy used Spectrum with the yellow toner, and then 8 volume and 22 volume.
So the 8 volume and 22 volume, I think, make like a 17 volume. So not quite as high as 22 and a little bit higher than an 8. And I just like to mix those together when the hair is a little bit more fragile, but I want lift. So I was still able to keep the health of her hair, and I lightened her up a little bit. When I did the bleach cap on her prior, the front area did lighten a lot more, and her hair is finer in the front too. So it was easier to be able to lift it with the Spectrum and the yellow toner. For her entire head, because it was away from the scalp, I did process her for 15 minutes total under the dryer. And that also, as compared to Taylor's piece, you can see how much it lifted with the added heat source. So when Kristen brought it up to definitely add more heat, it has to be added when you want to lift the hair higher. So it has to be added. Normally it has to be added. But like I said, with Taylor, I was really utilizing her body heat. Okay, so we will see Sheena's befores. So these are Sheena's before pictures, all the heaviness of dark in the crown area, some faded ends. Definitely a big color correction that I dived myself into. But when she told me she wanted reds, and I thought, well, I have the perfect formula, be red and be brown, we'll be doing something that you want. And it definitely, for the rust on Sheena, the Be Red copper, if you haven't used the Be Red copper, the red copper is just very, very intense. I mean, I definitely have used it on its own, but this is how much intensity I got, but still being mixed with a Be Brown. So it muted some of the colors, and it still gave me more of a red brown that I was looking for. Were you going to say something, Kristen?
No, I was just agreeing and thinking how pretty it is.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and again, the health of the hair. The health of the hair is so much prettier. So we talked about another inspiration for the year 2021 being soybean. Here is one inspiration that I took a little bit different. I added a touch, or what we were calling a kiss of violet, towards her mid area. So you can definitely create some different colors. I mean, if you really look at this without knowing the trends, she's just a regular blonde, right? But when you talk about the colors and you tell them to your clients and you give them the idea that they're going to be trending, they are so excited too. So I just really hope that today's class was an inspiration for you to be able to talk to your clients about different things and different inspirations, that when they show you a picture that comes from Instagram, that you can tell them how you can recreate it, how it's going to be a little bit different for them, that you will be adding something different because you know them. And they will totally appreciate that by you knowing their personal lifestyle, by you knowing how much they like to come back for a root touch-up.
But they're there for
that you know exactly what they need. And for example, here for Rachel, I know that she wanted something that was low maintenance, so we kept her with a root tap. So these things are important to talk about with your clients. I mean, a lot of clients want to see results in one single time. For Rachel, I definitely did all of this in one day, and it took a long time. It took about 6 hours. Her air layers were just incredible. She was very open to going shorter as long as she had movement. See, this is what she told me. If it's shorter, will I get more movement? I said, that's not going to create the movement, but we can create movement. And if you want to go shorter, we can definitely get rid of some of these pieces here. I didn't have to do anything to the pieces. Her hair was like super healthy after we were done, but she still wanted to go a little bit shorter. So with the conversation always being open from your clients to you and you to them, you guys can come up with something very, very great together that will work for the both of you. So here's the soybean. Two of the other colors that are going to be from fall to winter, actually, and I just wanted to talk about them a little bit, is the Fire Whirl is a very intense red, but this red comes in different orange undertone hues. Some of them a little bit, this one doesn't look that way, but it has some of the pinkish or coralish type of tones in there too. So these are definitely going to be very, very exciting for the fall. And here we have the Fuchsia Fedora, which is a combination of different magenta colors, a little bit, take it a little bit brighter and taking a little bit more dim, and then a true magenta, but in combination, they were called, the collection was called Fuchsia Fedora. Different colors also that we will see this fall is the leprechaun green and the Tidewater green. The Tidewater green is, I did my nails Tidewater green. I wanted to put it somewhere because it's so beautiful. It's just so nice. You can see the undertones. When I'm talking about these colors, greens and the reds and the fuchsias, you can already see where I'm going, right? It's definitely going to be color dynamic. So super inspiring for any type of bright colors that you want to create. Now you have a few ideas. If you're having any of your clients coming in for bright colors, these are definitely going to be hot, and they can be placed in different areas. You can take some of the inspirations for our sectioning and just create however you would like. One that was very beautiful for me in a brown, and we know a lot of the girls in our team in general uses a lot of the browns. B browns will definitely help us to create this root beer color. This root beer color also came in different shades, in a total like milk chocolate, but we also have it with an undertone of red and a little bit more browny, so a little bit more of a warmer brown, lighter brown, different shades, but definitely going to be hot for the fall. And I have some pictures to show you. All right, here I created a few looks, different techniques. I will go over the haircut techniques. I will go over the colors for this leprechaun green. For this girl here, we did Green Envy with Moody Blue. I did that especially on her root area because we lightened her. We got to a yellowy, and just so the green wouldn't look too washed out, I added some Moody Blue. Her haircut from this area down, these were air layers. In this fringe area here, this fringe and this fringe on the Fedora pink are called, these are called wolf cut bangs. Have you guys heard of wolf cut bangs? Wolf cut, anything like that? Isn't this great? Isn't this just cool? I mean, finding out about different trends to me is just so fun and so exciting. I was brought these bangs more from like younger girls. They follow a lot of the Korean anime and Japanese anime, and these characters in the comics, they definitely have this hair, and they are all coming in for a wolf cut, the entire cut, or just the bangs, and different colors too. I have another girl, can't wait to show you guys. She's going to be a color dynamic, the Tidewater green and a wolf haircut. So can't wait to show you guys. Her appointment is 2 weeks. Fuchsia Fedora with our colors from Color Dynamics. I mixed Magic Magenta with Hot Pink, and this is what we got. For her closer to her freshened up balayage, I used B-Red's red with 20 volume. For the whirl, fire whirl, I used a coral, a hot pink, and a crimson kiss, and I did more of the air layers just on her ends here for Ruby. And here's the root beer color. I used the botanical line. The botanical line can give you a lot of variation. We don't always have to just do the colors on their own. I used the cranberry and the damson to give me this root beer color, and it really was just amazing. Like during the daylight in front of you, it just looks super beautiful. And I used them together. I used more of the damson closer to her root. She had some gray we needed to cover. And Tiffany is a regular client for botanical. So if you have seen her on my Instagram, she changes her colors, but she sticks to botanical, or sometimes we freshen up just in between with some hot shots. Here are some more of the trending colors that I used in different placement with hot shots and color dynamics. Together here I did the leprechaun green, and then I mixed our yellow. So this yellow here is called Fortuna Gold, in the runway. It was called Fortuna Gold. I think I have a picture or two on my Instagram too that show Fortuna Golds in more natural colors. You can definitely identify with them if you have seen them. Again, going back to the yellow trend of the year, you can make them in different variations. Here we use just color dynamics and hot shots. Hot shots is in this area right on the, we did a true copper mixed in with a burnt copper. And then in the front, it's hot shots with brown. This mannequin was completely blonde. And this was for a shags and mullets class that I did. And it was just fun to also give them the idea of the fashion colors trending for the year. So it was just very inspiring to be able to do it in whatever line that pertains to ASP, because we have it within color dynamics, within hot shots, our regular infinity shades, and you saw today's presentation of the B reds and the B browns. So you can definitely get very creative with anything we carry in our line to give you what you're looking for. And this is a special surprise. We talked about Melissa being one of my first model back in January. Haven't you guys always wondered what it looks like when it fades? Don't we all wonder, like, oh, I wonder how that fades. So she came back last week, and this picture here is how she faded. So I was able to do her hair something a little bit more different this time. I balayaged her with Spectrum. We were playing around with some formulas. We did 7.42. I will have to put it on my Instagram when I remember this is just so fresh and it wasn't part of the presentation. So I don't really remember. And I balayaged her with Spectrum, that's for sure. And you can see here that I created some pickaboos of these same, but we did them more evenly. It was so funny because going over this together, I told her about one piece and she said, well, like, can we put them in both? And it's like, yeah, definitely. You know, if the person is not the client that you think is going to be edgy, not edgy, but not edgy enough to have something off-centered, then you don't have to do that. You can create the same idea and the same inspiration in a different look. So for Melissa here, we put a few pickaboos at the bottom. And another difference that we did on Melissa was we did the same section of a triangle here, and only half of her fringe I balayaged. The other half is not, but we didn't take the picture on the other side. But this side is darker. This side is the same color of her root. So just different ways that you can place the color. And overall, that was her balayage in the back. Desert Mist. So Desert Mist for sure on this one. Well, this brings us to the end